right. Welcome to YWR.
Hey, good to be here. Glad to
Yes,
finally
Andrew.
get to chat with you.
Yeah, thank you, Andrew. To everyone, I just want to say one of my favorite parts about YWR are all the cool people who reach out and I get to meet. And someone I'd like you to introduce you to is Andrew. And Andrew's been reading YWR and sending me emails, and he's been working on a exciting new video game, which I think is super creative. And I'll let you tell him about it, but basically, it's about an economic system in outer space, and he's modeling in economic dynamics, and people run planets. But I want Andrew to describe the game to us. But the other thing is, the takeaway is this exciting project he's doing and how he's been what he's learned about using AI along with the journey of doing this. So welcome, Andrew. Welcome from New Hampshire. And
Yeah, thank
you
you.
could tell us about tell us the background and the game and what you're trying to do.
Yep. So the genesis of this project started in 2007, 2008, when I was graduating from college and the world burned to the ground effectively, and I was left without a job for several years. And at that point, I set my mind and my heart on figuring out a way to teach enough people about currencies and about economics that this would hopefully be avoided again to avoid inflicting the Great Recession on anyone else in the future. And so
And
that
your
set me on a
takeaway was
journey.
that games are a good way to do this, right?
Yep. In my own personal experience, I have found that games are one of the best ways to teach because, unlike a book where you get intellectual knowledge, with a game you get visceral knowledge. Um, for example, I did a degree in aerospace engineering, and there's a game out there called War Thunder, which essentially models flight physics in a World War II simulator game. Um, had I had that game before college, I would have had a much easier time in college because I would have had the visceral experience of flight and the flight mechanics rather than just reading about it in books. And so I find the visceral experience of games to be a more effective teacher than simply reading books or
Now,
watching videos.
now, Andrew, this was, you said, in 2008, 2009, you were, experiencing the defaults and the great financial crisis, and you thought, wow, you had this idea for this game.
Mm-hmm.
It was very bold game, but you kind of in your mind knew that you needed some steps along the road to
Yes.
achieve it. So tell us what you did
Yep.
next.
Yeah. So when I was younger, I used to say, "Oh, I'll never program. I hate programming. I hate coding." And after 2008, I thought, well, if I'm going to write a game, I need to know how to code. So the first job that I got was data entry for the Department of Defense. And I did that for a while, and then I got slotted into coding from there and learned Java and servers and began my journey into the cloud and learned DevOps and all of the pieces that I need to run and operate a game effectively. And so a lot of the careers and jobs that I've taken along the way have been in service to learning skills necessary to make this game a reality.
So you became a cloud DevOps engineer at one
Yes.
point, right? Or
Yep, that's my current job. I'm helping companies in the U.S. transform their DevOps stack currently. So, and I do that to learn the skills necessary to to make this game a reality. So,
yeah, so they're doing this like incredibly intense day job, but in the
yep,
background there's this other strategy, longer. Hey, I'm building up all these skills around this game
yeah,
I want to develop, which is incredibly complex and going to require all this coding and knowledge. And so you reached out a little while ago. I mean, maybe it was last year sometime, and you started on this game and building this game. And I think you knew that AI was going to be a help to this, but you were a little bit intimidated about it. I remember, right?
yes, yeah, because I got married a few years ago, and we had a child a year ago, and so the little time that I had went effectively to zero. So I was trying to figure out how to balance the day job, the family, the child, and the development of the game, plus all the other responsibilities that I have. And so I turned to you for advice, and you gave me some good advice, which was do a little bit at a time.
Yeah, just get started and
Yep.
just put one foot in front of the other and get going on it because it sounded awesome. So, Andrew, do you want to tell us a little bit about the game and what
Yeah.
it is?
Yep. So for those familiar with games in general, the game Civilization is the closest analogy that's really, really popular today. Um, but I'm building a civilization in space, and it's going to, so you're going to be able to build your own planets up, populate your cities, manage your populations, the tax policies for each planet, etc., like all of the planetary affairs. And then on top of that, you'll be able to build starships that can begin exploring the nearby star systems, looking for new planets to colonize and begin building your interstellar empire.
So
You
start as a planet, you start running a planet, but then you can expand your
yep,
empire more.
that's correct. Yep, you start on one little planet with just a handful of buildings, and you
But if
build
you
it
do
into an
well, you
interstellar
can
empire.
launch starships and go and.
Yep.
And you said one interesting thing about this game that no one has ever done before that you're working on.
Yeah, this game is going to have fiat currency, which most game developers, I suspect, know next to nothing about. And each player is going to be able to have their own. They're going to be assigned a currency at start, and they'll be able to name it whatever they want. And everything that is purchasable in the game is going to be run through their currency. The key caveat is that every other player is going to have their own currency, and they are all going to float relative to each other. And there'll be an open market for resources. And so players that manage their currencies well and learn how to effectively do what the Federal Reserve does are going to succeed and be able to win this game effectively.
So you'll kind of, one of the, if you manage your currency well, you'll be strategically advantaged versus the other players.
Correct. Yep. And that's exactly the goal, to teach players about fiat currency. And so everyone who plays this game, it will be an expert at fiat currency by the end.
Right.
Because they're going to know what works and what fails.
Yeah, what an amazing way to, like you said about like the way you learned about aeronautics was like flying your own plane. Like
Yep.
the way you'll learn about fiat currencies is being a central banker and running a fiat currency of your own.
That's correct. Yes.
And I think one thing also you said you're having to research and bring into the game is the concept of interest rates and time or something. You said some book you were reading about this.
Yep. Yes. And so there's a book by Edward Chancellor called The Price of Time. And one of the key aspects of that book that I'm going to shamelessly borrow is the idea of the neutral interest rate in the economy. So there's a natural interest rate that is prevalent throughout the economy. And whenever central bankers set the artificial interest rate above or below that interest, and that natural interest rate is constantly changing based on economic situations, there are certain effects that happen in society as a result of that. And so I plan on modeling those effects. I have to first model the natural interest rate, and then from there I can model the effects of player policy above or below that natural interest rate.
Andrew, I am like, I totally can't wait to play this game.
Yep,
one of the other things I think, also you've been, maybe you could help people. You've been using AI a lot, and it's really evolved over the last, 7 or 8 months that you've been doing this, and how intense. And you had some tips for people who are running their own AI agents, and maybe you can help explain or share them with people.
Yeah, so I actually started using ChatGPT for coding when it first came out, before it was even intended for coding.
Right when it was just write the code and he'd paste it in from
yes,
the one.
Right. Yeah, I did a whole bunch of that initially. And that worked for a while, but it was very clunky and very awkward. And then they evolved up to the CLI, to the terminal, where you type it into the black box, and so that helped immensely because I was already familiar with the terminal from my work in DevOps and cloud engineering, and so that accelerated things even further because at that point you can just have it interface directly with the code base because the terminal has access to all the code. So you just say, hey, make this change in all these files and implement this feature set. And so that helped immensely. And then the AI got smarter. So at that point, I was telling it, hey, can you debug this code? Can you find out why it's not working correctly? And at that point, once you can do that, you set off a cycle where you code, let it debug itself, and then code and let it debug itself. And it's that positive reinforcement cycle that is key to making the AI code effectively. And then at that point, it's all guardrails.
And wasn't one of you said, look, the plan, research, plan, execute is like a framework to keep in mind, right?
Yes, yeah, and this actually works effectively across any topic, not just coding. And so for the coding piece of it, like I'll say, give me all of the database details, like, or all the details about a database in Rust, in the Rust language. And then we'll just spit out as much as it knows about Rust and databases. And at that point, you can begin narrowing it down. And then as you plan that narrowing down process, you help the AI to immerse itself in your context and the context that you want it to have. And then once you finish that process, then you ask the question or a series of questions that you want.
That's interesting, because like normally we would ask the question, and like implied in the question is that you would have to go out and learn something, but you're almost saying, first, I'm going to kind of hide the question for a second and just make you immerse yourself in some topic. And then the question comes in later, but it's better that way, right?
Yes, you reduce hallucinations by an order of magnitude doing it that way. And so that's very, very helpful. Even with the inexpensive AIs, it still works immensely well.
Is that because it's trying to answer too quickly otherwise?
Yep, because it instead of having this big pool of knowledge that it has, you narrow it down to this much. You say, focus on this section here and answer the question inside these bounds.
Yes, you've already kind of given it, it already has all the information right on it. Yeah, in its that's a very interesting, so it's like research, so you kind of just make it seems like a weird step, but I'm just gonna, because it doesn't answer your question, right? But like go out and
tell me everything about this topic here.
Then I'm gonna ask you the actual question, but then there's, that's the research.
Then the plan is taking this section and narrowing it down closer to what your question is.
And then method is, I think you say in the question you embed some type of how I want you to look at this, or the kind of the style or the or format or something like. If you're is this for an expert in coding or something, or you add some little.
My mic just died. There we go. Cool.
I can hear you.
Very good. All right. Yeah, I had my AirPods battery ran out. But yeah, so by the time you do the research and plan part, you don't strictly need to embed further instructions in your question. You can just straight up ask it the question. Okay. Yeah, if you are just doing straight questions, then yeah, embedding context in the question is very important.
And then you said you have set up a Claude bot, and it helps. It's been helping to organize your multiple agents you have. I mean, which is just insane, right? You have multiple agents working on this project now.
Yeah. So I pay $17 a month for Claude Code and $20 a month for Codex, and then on top of that, I have an API sub that I use for the actual Claude bot itself, or the Open Claude bot. And so essentially, because I have almost no time typically, I have the Open Claude bot set up to talk to me on Signal, and then from there, most of the time that I have free is when my daughter is not sleeping, or when I'm trying to sleep, and so I can just text my Open Claude bot, which I've named Dudley, and say, Dudley, can you write this feature for me while I'm laying here in bed? And then Dudley will open up either Codex or Claude Code, write the code, and then send me the merge request when it's done, so that I can review it.
You were sitting here last year going, oh, I really want to do this project. And I didn't realize how many years this project had been in the making, right? But you're like, wow, I got, new child, family and day job. How am I do this? Who would have imagined that you're lying in bed with your phone, just
Yeah.
and meanwhile there's multiple AI agents building your project while you're sitting in bed or you're changing diapers or whatever.
Yeah, that's correct.
That's insanity.
Yeah, it's really.
So Andrew, this brings me to another point that I want to bring up, and I think you're just such a good example of it, and that's why I just, I was first of all so awesome to meet you, but also what I think what's kind of strikes me also is, in a lot of ways it's scary right now especially for young students, but also people in a lot of jobs, and they're kind of noticing how competent these AIs are, and they're seeing how good chunks of what they do could be done for $20 a month, and it's quite it's intimidating and a bit scary. And but I think there's this flip side to this, where if you want to do something very creative and very audacious, and that would have normally been outside the realms of like feasibly doable, you can kind of take on this crazy stuff, right?
Yeah, absolutely. The world is literally your oyster. And that's the ideology that you need to embrace, is that because AI offers you all of this power, you should take it. Absolutely take it and run with it. Because this is the greatest opportunity in the history of ever that we have to build crazy things. Anything that you ever wanted to do. If you want to start a business, it's at your fingertips. If you want to build a new product, it's at your fingertips. You could literally have the AI walk you through molecular chemistry and develop new compounds. You could develop new materials for material science if that's your passion. Like, the world is literally your oyster, and all you have to do is reach out and grab it and run with it. And I think that is incredibly encouraging and incredibly wholesome, and it's going to benefit humanity 1,000-fold in the long run when each of us do this.
No, it's and that's a great point that I think we're all kind of I think quite a lot of people are having a negative slant on this, but you've got actually like this is going to be like, we're going to look back and think this is quite actually an amazing and positive thing.
Absolutely. Yeah, I am psyched about AI, and I'm excited for where it's going to go. And I firmly believe that this is going to end up much better than most people currently think.
Yeah, and I think I think that the challenge, or not challenging part, but like it really benefits if you've got like the creative side of you, if you kind of have this thing to do that you want to do, or you want to write a book or create a game, of 10,000 planets with an economic system, and everyone manages their own fiat currencies. I mean, it's such a complex thing that I mean, there was no way like one person would be able to ever code that, in the old world, right? But
you could, but it would take 20 years.
Yeah, and now you're doing it while you're in bed, not sleeping in the middle of the night.
That's exactly who I thought. So,
Andrew, I think that's super helpful, and I'm glad that you've been able to share this with us. And if anyone wants to message me about, if you've got questions about Andrew's game, reach out to me, and maybe I can put him in touch with you. Thank you, Andrew.
Yeah, thank you. I'm excited to be here, and I'm excited to see where all this goes.